All right, welcome back, guys. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. He is Gary Sheffield Jr., and you are watching Yankees Unloaded. Unfortunately, you're watching them after a loss. 49-22 are the Yankees. They missed out on their 50th win of the year. Quite honestly, a game that, Gary, we talked, over text, and it was just ugly. At no point did the Yankees look like they were going to win this game. And then the eighth inning came, and all of a sudden it was like at no point was I thinking really, the way they were hitting. Rizzo gets it going with the home run. Volpe with the swinging bunt, is able to score Jahmai Jones. And then Soto knocks in Grisham. At that point, when they went up 3-2, I felt pretty good about the result. Unfortunately, the Yankees turned to their closer, Clay Holmes, who didn't do his job, didn't close the game. He's got a 1.80 ERA this year. He's been excellent for the most part.
Yeah, Weaver struggled too, by the way. For those of you who watched the game,
yeah,
Weaver, I know he had a hold his ninth of the year, didn't give up a run. He walked two guys, but it was a struggle fest out there for our relievers today. Don't know what that was about. Overall, their numbers look really good. Weaver's ERA's hovering in the mid twos. Obviously, Clay Holmes, it feels like the sky's falling. His ERA is 180, right? And it's really difficult to judge these players because we're used to seeing a guy like by the name of Mariano Rivera. And of course, his ERA wasn't 0 the whole year, but it just felt like innings were easier, right? There was less stress in the ninth inning. I mean, of course, he's arguably the greatest closer of all time, if not the. So we were very spoiled. And it's difficult not to watch someone blow a save. And obviously he's given up. I can't remember. Would you say how many runs he's given up his last two appearances?
I think it was hits. I said,
yeah. Was it five
given
hits?
up? He's given up 7 hits in the last 5 2/3 innings.
Okay, so in general, not what we're used to seeing at all. It just seems like this is just one of those slides. Happens to literally every player in baseball. Maybe a month and a half ago, Juan Soto went through a stretch of being 0 for 20. And we were talking about whether or not he was going to be a streaky player for us. When was that going to end? And now he's one of our more consistent players, of course. So, yeah, it's difficult because we've talked about the Yankees needing somewhat of reinforcements in the bullpen, but these type of outings just happen. We have to remember and just take a step back. We just won 3 of 4. If I told you before this series started, we were going to take 3 of 4 from Kansas City leading up to those series in Baltimore, we would have taken it any day of the week. We'd have been happy about it. And then now here we go. We honestly had this game taken right off our plate from a 4-game sweep. Like, I'm thrilled with that. I just am. Am I disappointed to see Clay Holmes wet the sheets? Yeah, it sucked. And then, of course, for those of you, again, who watched this game, Anthony Rizzo's defensive woes just have continued. He had a big home run today to kind of put us right back into the game and obviously gave us an opportunity. That was great. But defensively, that's his first job. The first thing he's supposed to be over there is an anchor, and it just hasn't materialized this year. Overall, his career in pinstripes, I thought defensively he's been really good. This is not that, okay? We talked last episode about whether or not Pete Alonso fit with this Yankees team or any other fit via trade or someone in the system. And a lot of the question marks were, what was Alonso defensively? What would it look like if Aaron Judge moved to first base? How would that look defensively, right? The drawbacks of that. Well, our guy who's being paid nearly $20 million a year to play first base as his primary position is not fielding the position. Okay. So when you're hitting 223, and again, you hit a home run today, great, but you're not doing your first job, it's a problem. And someone needs to address it. Of course, we will hear on this show. And Jake, I'm actually curious to know what you think on him.
I'm tired of watching Rizzo sit there. And you mentioned it early on in our show. You mentioned it early on in the year. Rizzo will make it so the pitcher has to sprint over and, turn into Usain Bolt to get over to first, because he just does not charge the baseball. He does not try to play the baseball. And it's really frustrating. And today, I mean, Clay Holmes, there are people trying to defend Rizzo. Clay Holmes got there too quickly. Rizzo was kind of spooked. No. As it was stated by Jeff Nelson on the broadcast, as a first baseman, it's your job. You have to go in and charge that ball. That ball should not even have hit the infield, like the infield dirt. He should have charged it in the grass. He's just sitting there. And then, it rolls into his glove and he just kind of like nonchalantly flips it. And you're like,
this is the mental side of the game, right? The mental
yeah,
side.
I mean, but the fact that this is happening still in June, and it's June 14th now. I mean, well, June 13th when this happened, but it's just not acceptable. And, I got to be honest with you. I thought the Royals manager was out of his gourd to take out Alec Marsh. This game was not close. The Royals absolutely dominated with Marsh on the mound. He was unhittable today. And when they took him out, immediately Schreiber got absolutely lit up. I mean, in addition to that, the manager of the Royals, who I don't know his name, but he got thrown out of the game for arguing the most ridiculous thing ever. I mean, he was saying that Volpe blocked the plate, which he did, but you can do once you actually secure the baseball.
Yeah, once you establish the catch, which I kind of get why they use Schreiber, because, I mean, I don't agree with the move, but overall, he has 31 appearances this year. His ERA was below 2.5. Okay, so he's been excellent this year, but part of making these moves is you don't want to reinvent the wheel. Something's already working. We clearly weren't picking up the baseball.
No.
Okay. That entire day, guys were not we were not taking very good swings in general. It wasn't just that we didn't have hits. We looked bad. Okay. Everyone looked bad. We looked like we were guessing. Now, whenever people say, why do the hitters some days look like they're guessing? And then other days it just looks like they're confident. Well, it could be location, it could be spin, right? Guys just flat out aren't picking up the ball. Why would you watch us 3 times through the order not pick up the baseball at all? Okay, we had 1 hit through 7 innings of play. And you bring in somebody because you think, well, he's pitched well against all these other teams in baseball, so we trust him. Why wouldn't you just trust the guy who has the hot hand, right? So we obviously won't read too much into what the other team's doing, but it almost walked us into a win.
Yeah, and it was, once again, Kansas City Royals manager. I just think it was a terrible decision. They got lucky. Maybe that's why they won, is because when he got ejected, he wasn't actually managing the game. But, all jokes aside, though, this whole pitch count thing, it's just so ridiculous. When you think about it, it's so ridiculous. I have heard so many times people will bring up Edwin Jackson was never the same after his 150 pitch no hitter. I'm not asking him to throw 150 pitches. Okay. He threw 96, gave up 1 hit to Juan Soto through 7 innings, 7 strikeouts, was pretty much unhittable. And you're telling me you're going to take him out because he's near the deathly 100 pitches. It's laughable. It's absolutely laughable, because you're basically saying, I am going to take out a guy who's the best case scenario start today for Marsh was this. You could not get a better start out of Marsh. He's not that good. Okay. Today was just a crazy day. He was, doing a great job mixing up his pitches. The Yankees having a hard time picking up the ball. Like, that doesn't happen every week. Okay. Not a bad pitcher, but he's not like great. So you take him out of the best case scenario start that you could have gotten because he has 96 pitches. And it's just, Gary, it's just laughable. This whole age of analytics thing, I always laugh at it, because the Royals almost lost the baseball game today because they took out a guy who was unhittable. And they were like, well, our bullpen's good. And it goes to show you, we saw it on both sides. Holmes, statistically, Holmes would be good enough to beat anybody, right? Luke Weaver, statistically, is dominated this year. I mean, Zerpa, I mean, he gave up a hit and he threw 2 pitches. But Zerpa has a 2.05 ERA and Schreiber has a 2.83 ERA. So I get you have good bullpen guys.
Yeah,
But
but
we
just
have
because
to
someone's
stop
good
just
doesn't mean you should use them.
assuming. Yeah, we have to stop assuming that every time you bring in a guy who's got a good ERA in the bullpen, he's automatically just going to be lights out every time. I think what my biggest issue is with baseball and just the analytical aspect of it is that, this lack of feel. Like, okay, I understand it's not customary to keep a guy in now in 2024 past 100 pitches normally. And I understand you really would only keep him in if he's throwing a no hitter, perfect game, all of that. But why? I mean, there's so much assumption, Gary, with this whole I'm just going to bring in my bullpen guy and he's just going to pitch exactly how I want him to. All you're doing is adding more legs to the parlay. You nailed the first pitcher, okay? And he could have given you another inning. Maybe he pitches a complete game shutout. Who knows? All I know is the moment he left the game, I was sitting there watching the game and I'm like, the Yankees have a shot now. When Alec Marsh was in there, I was like, yeah, that was a nice hit by Soto. I didn't feel like they had a shot in hell. I think he could have pitched all 9 innings. The Yankees would have maybe had 2 more hits and they would have lost and they might not have scored a run.
Yeah, they gave us a shot in the arm by taking him out the game. We just kind of lucked out by him being pulled. But when is someone going to talk about who gives a shit about pitches? You should watch the game. These managers should be watching the game and say, How many stress pitches did he throw? How many times did he have to come out the stretch with a guy in second and third? Did he have to throw 3 or 4 breaking balls in an at bat? Right? Does it really matter? How hard is it on his arm to go face Austin Wells in the 4th inning and throw 5 pitches, 4 of which were fastballs? He's obviously not throwing 100. It's not that bad, okay? Those 5 pitches that he threw to Wells in the 5th inning aren't the same as having 3rd and 2nd with Juan Soto up there and he's spinning breaking balls. So part of the manager's job, yes, he's thrown 96 pitches, but over the course of the game, he faced no stress whatsoever. And that doesn't happen very often to us. We are podcasters for the Yankees. Rarely ever do we watch a pitcher come in and just shove it right up our ass. It's literally what happened. Okay. And you don't have to be incredibly talented to do that. You need to locate well and you need to have decent stuff, a decent game plan. He had all 3 going today. So when you have those 3 things going, you don't mix it up and just throw somebody else in the pot. We almost swept them because of it. Obviously, thankfully for them, they got out of it anyways. But and it's a separate conversation of what happened with Holmes. But yeah, it just seems stupid, and it seems like a decision that Aaron Boone has kind of gone away from, and he's gone more towards feel,
which is the right approach.
I like it,
and it's why Aaron Boone has 49 wins, and the manager of Kansas City has 40.
Obviously a huge difference, obviously a huge gap in talent, but there is a huge gap in management as well.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to just dog the Kansas City manager all day, every day. I just think that today was poorly managed. And I think that's part of the frustration. Like, why, you're a Yankee show. Why are you talking so much about the Royals? Because this is why it was so frustrating to lose this game. I thought this was a poorly managed baseball game by Kansas City, and they still got out of it alive. And, Cortez started off. I thought he looked really good at the beginning, and I think it was the 4th inning when he got himself into a jam. And it's so frustrating because Jeff Nelson is like, yeah, he's not able to locate his breaking ball. He's not able, and then he just keeps throwing it, and he's just getting eviscerated. I'm past Quintino, and and then you look up and you're like, wow, Cortez had himself a really good day. He gave him 7 innings. He only gave up 2 runs. And we also have to stop with the whole, he gave up 2 runs. And it's just because the situation, is dire, and giving up 2 runs in a game where the Yankees can't hit is, crushing. I mean, Cortez's ERA is what you should expect.
It's
3.59.
better than what I expected. I thought he was going to be a 4 guy. Yeah, the Yankees were supposed to 9 times out of 10 you face Marsh again. The
Yeah.
Yankees probably have 4 or 5 runs. We're looking at Nestor going, "Wow, great start from our 5." A lot of people are saying that Nestor Cortez should be going to the bullpen. I'm one of those guys. When Clark Schmidt comes back, when Garrett Cole comes back, I've got Nestor Cortez in the bullpen. He's our
Yeah.
6th best pitcher in my opinion. But having said that, yeah, like you just said, if the team doesn't score any freaking runs in the 7 innings that your starting pitcher threw, and he gave up 2, if you looked at Nestor's line right here, would you take that before the game started? You say, absolutely. Absolutely, I would
I
take
don't
that start.
see how the Yankees lose if you show me that line before the game.
No, absolutely not. We should have won the game based on what Nestor gave us in terms of output. He did what he was supposed to do, if not better. He only struck out 2 guys, so balls were put in play. Normally, when Nestor Cortez is allowing guys to put the ball in play often, he's given up runs. It was a hot day in Kansas City, and he found ways
A
around
day
the barrel
game
of the bat.
too,
Yeah,
maybe some
yeah.
jet lag in there. Who knows?
No, but
Although
he
they
was
didn't
good.
show it the last 3 games, but yeah, no, he was good. I just want to get that point across because I know baseball fans, it's like a pitcher gives up a run and it's 1-0. It's like, oh, dude, he sucks. It's like, well, at some point or another, because the offense, we give them all the praise, all the flashiness, the sexiness, all of that. They hit the home runs, they steal the bases, they show the speed, they have collisions at home plate. Maybe not anymore, but the point is, offense is always like more explosive. It's more fun. The casual fan consumes offense, I would say, a lot easier than say the defensive side. But anyway, my point that I'm trying to make here is that the offense was not good today. Okay. They only had 5 hits, and a bunch of them came towards the end of the game. And, we saw the first hit of the game when Juan Soto got that in the 7th off of Marsh. He's the only one that could hit Marsh. So, I look at this lineup today, and I got to be honest with you, 4 strikeouts from Aaron Judge. I was like, Aaron Judge, I've never seen Aaron Judge look as bad as he did.
That was just
today.
a bad day, man. That was
Yeah,
just a bad day.
and
We
again,
reached second base 4 times today, by the way.
yeah, it's not one of those. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh yeah, Judge, we need to be concerned or anything like that. No, but we have to be honest. We have to keep it real here on this channel. As much as we praise Judge as the best player in the world, I still believe he is. I don't think one game changes that. We still have to be honest with ourselves. Not a good day at the office when you have 4 out of the 8 strikeouts for the team. His approach was awful. He just wasn't seeing the ball well. I do wonder, Gary, if the sunlight had anything to do with it. Did you see the way those rays were pointed right at home plate?
I
do wonder.
I don't think it had any impact. The reason I say this is because it didn't seem to be impacting Kansas City, who had 9 hits. And when you describe Kansas City's offense, you wouldn't describe anything good. Okay, this is not a team. They're not going to go lead the league in runs. Okay, this is a team that's going to be middle of the pack at best offensively. They're going to spin it on the mound and play good defense and run the bases. It's exactly what we would come to expect in 2015 when they won the World Series. It's exactly how they did it, doing all of those things I just mentioned. And they're trying to repeat it, right? They have Witt Jr., right? Super athletic guys all over the field, but they need a couple more bats to put some runs up. They had 9 hits. And we're sitting here, we didn't have a hit till what inning?
7th.
The 7th inning of baseball. I don't want to hear about the sun. I don't want to. I get the question, but when I'm looking at the other team getting hits, I can't just turn around and be like, "Oh, it's such a problem for us," but for whatever reason, it's not an issue for the other team.
No,
I don't want to make any excuses for us.
I was just curious because it looked like Judge wasn't picking up the ball well at all. Maybe it was Marsh's delivery. I don't know.
It's just baseball, I think.
I mean, yeah,
Aaron Judge has done this before. I've seen Aaron Judge is not. He's the best hitter in the game, in my opinion, but Aaron Judge still is not a contact hitter. That's one thing. So if you saw Juan Soto strike out 5 times in a game, you would legitimately say, what in the world did I just see? But if Aaron Judge goes up his first 2 at-bats, strikes out both of those at-bats, your assumption is He's not picking up this guy, and that happens with him every once in a while. Not often, but it can happen. Okay, he's still a power hitter. Juan Soto, on the other hand, the Tony Gwynns, the Ichiros, those guys, they don't have these type of performances. They just do not occur, right? So I'm not surprised by this. This just happens with him
Yeah.
once every blue moon, and it was just one of those days.
And, Torres, even with the leg kick and everything, nice deep double there. Needed that in that, that rally, if you will. LeMahieu. Okay. Want to talk a little bit about him, as we wrap this show up. He's now batting 190. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
His on base percentage is over 300. So that is a little bit of a surprise. Rizzo's is 282 for reference. Rizzo has a 344 slugging, whereas LeMahieu has a 190 slugging. I think LeMahieu has zero pop. Everything LeMahieu hits seems to be either soft line drives or ground balls. There's no more pop off his bat. I think we started seeing that the last couple of years, like he was losing that power. And I'm not saying he had a ton of it, but now, I mean, he's got like nothing. So I do wonder how much longer they go about this with LeMahieu hitting 190 when we already know Cabrera. Defensively, you could say LeMahieu's probably better than Cabrera. I think that's fair at third. But Cabrera is absolutely the better hitter. And is Cabrera's defense that much less than LeMahieu? And then the question is, LeMahieu struggling, Rizzo struggling. LeMahieu's a much better defender than Rizzo at first. I mean, if you're not going to put Judge at first right now, and you're not going to trade for Pete Alonso, because that would be something that would probably come together in August, right? You wouldn't see that now. So if you're not going to do that, is LeMahieu? I guess really the question is, Rizzo's the better hitter right now. LeMahieu's the better fielder. What do you value? Because I think right now they're both struggling at the plate. But I mean, Rizzo still has that power. Rizzo still is batting 223, and he has the slugging to go with it. LeMahieu's more likely to generate a walk with his on-base percentage. So, yeah, I mean, I think right now that's the biggest issue. If Torres continues to hit the way he's hitting, it's going to quiet the crowd. But right now, Rizzo's costing the Yankees baseball games with his defense alone. And I think LeMahieu is a much better option. But the question is, am I being a little hypocritical here? Because, I mean, Gary, we talked about, I want the best 9 hitters in the lineup. It's not that I don't care about defense, but, I think this is more so weighing just how bad Rizzo's defense is right now.
Yeah, if you're not hitting, you need to be special defensively. That's essentially the gist of it. If you're going to hit 210 and not leave the yard 30 times, you better look like Rafael Furcal out there. You better look like Jim Edmonds out there, right? And that's what I think most people can resonate with. Let's remember something. You just described DJ LeMahieu as a player. Obviously, he's highly paid. You didn't mention this, but it's all understood. Highly, highly paid. And we all agreed he was deserving of a contract. Maybe some stragglers will say, oh, I always knew, right? The hindsight Hanks. But most of us were in agreement that DJ LeMahieu should have been re-signed by the Yankees. But having said that, if I told you last year's DJ LeMahieu, you have to remember the second half of last year, DJ was actually very good for the Yankees. But here's the crazy part. He struck out more than twice as much as he walked last year. He hit 15 homers. No one would consider DJ LeMahieu an exceptional defensive player. They'd say he's serviceable at third base and second base at this point of his career. Okay? At this point, he's serviceable at third. He's serviceable at second base. Okay? He doesn't have crazy pop. He definitely, absolutely is not more athletic than Oswaldo Cabrera. Okay. So that's where my problem resides. You need to be exceptional at something. You need to have more pros to the cons. And in my opinion, Cabrera, I said this about a week ago. The Yankees and Aaron Boone came out and said, I believe DJ LeMahieu is going to be starting at third base. That's what's going to be happening. And we stopped seeing Oswaldo, right? As soon as we started talking about that, what happened to Oswaldo? He goes 0 for 15. They pull him off the field, right? DJ's ready to go. And DJ has done absolutely nothing since. And my whole point here is that when people say that the Yankees need to get more athletic, they need to get faster. They need more guys from the left, like a left-handed hitter, a guy who can make adjustments, right? He puts the ball on the ground. It's not just an out. Just more athletic players.
Yeah.
Okay, Cabrera is that guy. He's someone who can fill that role that you wanted, right? More utility players. So if you're just asking me straight up, I legitimately believe, and this might sound ridiculous to some people, Oswaldo Cabrera is a better baseball player this year than DJ LeMahieu will be at any point.
I don't think it's
So am
ridiculous.
I saying that is DJ going to do nothing all year? Absolutely not. I still think he's a decent baseball player in this league. Like, he's not just some bum. He's not. But do I think there's more pros and more to gain by putting Oswaldo on the field and trusting in him? I do. I really do. I actually believe in him more than I do these other options. So I say Oswaldo should be starting at third base and DJ LeMahieu should be a spot start. And you know what? If the Yankees are upset that, well, we're paying this guy $15 million this year, we can't just sit him down. That's not our problem. That's not a
Be
team that's
happy you don't have a salary cap.
exactly. If a team has to win the World Series, which based on what the Yankees have told us, this is a win now season. If that's the truth, you should be able to swallow the fact that you're paying a guy $15 million and you know he's not a better performer. He's not projected to be a better performer than this guy you just put on the bench. In my opinion, that's just hogwash. They have to figure this out. Maybe it takes them a week or two. Maybe it takes them a month. But I hope, and Jake, I hope people hear me when I say this. Baltimore is right on our tail. They always will be. And there's going to be points in the season. We might hit a snag. We have an injury or two. And then we're looking up at Baltimore. Every single one of these games is going to count. Every one of them. And like I said before, marginal impact from these role players could be the difference between winning a division and us having to scratch through the wild card. These players, these type of difference makers, in my opinion, these decisions have to be made correctly. They're very hard decisions to be made. And I hope Boone takes them seriously, some of the talent that he has rotting on the bench. Because when a guy's hitting a $190, I get his average will go up, but marginally, probably 235 this year. Wouldn't you say DJ will hit 235? He's not going to hit a bunch of homers. So what are we really putting him on the field for?
No, and again, we've talked about it. I know they added, contact to the lineup, but at some point there's not a lot of power right now in that lineup aside from Judge, Soto, and Stanton. I mean, Verdugo's fourth in home runs. Verdugo's not a power hitter. So, I actually have an interesting proposition for you here.
Okay.
Because let's just say we're defeated right now. We've lost the battle right now. Aaron Judge is not going to play first right now, right? We know that. Okay. And then you have Cabrera, who, like, to your point, like, LeMahieu might be a better fielder than Cabrera at third by a little bit, but I like Cabrera more at third. I like him more in the lineup. So that leaves first, which, by the way, is literally a position where teams just don't even give a damn about. They'll throw in their power hitter at first base. David Ortiz played first base. Wasn't that long, obviously. Played a lot of DH, but he played first base. I mean, that is that position. It's like the position where I don't know where to throw anybody. I need to put him in the lineup. He's a power hitter. Get him over to first base. Why is this so imperative for the Yankees, people would ask? It's because it's blocking guys like Jason Dominguez from coming up because your outfield is stacked. And you have a 32-year-old defensive tackle size center fielder who has already had like foot issues based on last year, has had numerous injuries in his career, and you are so stubborn, you won't move him from center field. You literally like are keeping him in the outfield, which is the most dangerous position by far when his bat means everything, and you won't move him to first. And the reason being is because you're obsessed with what you paid. You're obsessed with the fact you paid Lamehu, like you've said, you paid Rizzo, combined $35 million, we'll call it this year. You're paying those two guys. Well, instead of just playing them because they're getting paid, because we saw where that went with Alex Rodriguez in the second contract, doesn't always end too well. Instead of doing that, I would say this: Trevino is hitting 272. Now there's going to be days where you have to, give him a day off or not. But I would actually make Trevino the starting catcher for now, and I would move Austin Wells to first base. Wells has been playing first. He played first in the minors. He's been taking grounders at first before games. Wells is very athletic. I don't think people are aware of how athletic Wells is. Wells right now, if we're really looking at it, Volpe, Soto, Judge, I would say Wells is the fourth most athletic in the lineup. Like, I think he's ahead of Verdugo. So
yeah, I think that can work, but it's at the same time, like, we do have to take a step back and say, okay, what are we doing? We are essentially, the question 2 days ago was, how do we get Jason Dominguez, who clearly is a big leaguer, clearly can help the Yankees?
yeah,
How do we get him in the lineup? That was the question. Then all of a sudden, it was, well, putting Austin Wells at first base would make us better. That is true. But just because a certain move can make us better doesn't mean it is the move that we should do. I agree. Putting Austin Wells at first base makes us much more athletic, and that's a good thing. But at the same time, that's just like one of the decisions they can make. That's still not the decision that they should be making. The decision to be made is moving one of their outfielders to first base, because
really
Anthony
just
Rizzo,
Judge.
yeah, which is Aaron Judge, and you can put Jason Dominguez in this lineup. Now, I don't say this as a sky is falling take, because I'm not really freaked out about this. I think it's really easy to freak out about marginal differences in the lineup when you lose a game and you blow it with your closer, right? Your best arm. Yeah, it feels like shit. But I try to just give ways that this team can improve while trying to remind people I'm not that freaked out. We're still the best team in the big leagues.
Of course
Baltimore
not.
lost today. We lost today, right?
So
And
nothing
we're going to
happened.
be nothing happen. Of course, we want to gain ground anytime we can. But some of the best teams, the 98 Yankees, you could turn on a game in 98 and they would have lost. And there's not always a change that has to happen when you lose games. Because if we had won this game, we would have been beating our chest. We probably aren't talking about Rizzo as long. We're not talking about Clay Holmes. If Clay Holmes closes this game, we honestly couldn't give two shits about Rizzo. We're probably saying, hey, he hit a big homer and made a mistake, but who cares, right? So we're aware of the madness here on the show. But having said that, there's a clear way that this team can get better. And I'm actually curious, Jake, on your opinion on this before we go. Do you actually think that Jason Dominguez, because this is a matter of time, he's going to sit there until September? Is that a real thing? Because we usually deal with injuries. Do you think Boone is going to wait until we have an injury to have fate make his decision for him? Or do you think he's going to make a decision?
No, I think eventually Dominguez is going to get called up.
Okay.
I like I've said, I do think eventually he's going to move to center and Judge is going to be the first baseman. I just wish they'd do it now. Me bringing up Austin Wells is to keep a bat in the lineup, an athletic bat, somebody that has a good eye and, can work counts, and somebody who needs more at bats. I feel like these, taking turns with Trevino, he gets out of the rhythm. I feel like he's creating a rhythm and then he's, out of the lineup for the next 3 days because we have preferential catchers.
I think that's
As
more about Trevino, by the way. I think the reason they do that has nothing to do with Wells. Trevino had a major injury last year. I think they do that specifically to keep him fresh. They let Austin Wells try and go win the job as the starter because they were kind of unsure. They're like, okay, Trevino's off a major injury, but he's also kind of hasn't hit since the first half of last year. So we don't know what he's going to be. We haven't guaranteed him a spot. You guys go work this out. And then he came out and just
yeah.
raked his way essentially to the All-Star game. We don't really know if he's going to make it, but he's going to get close. And once he did that, the Yankees know we have to keep this guy healthy. And to do that, we're not going to be able to throw him out there 6 or 7 days a week. To do that, Wells has to be on the bench. And is that the best thing for Wells individually? Probably not. It's probably not the best way to utilize Austin Wells, but in terms of what it does for Trevino, it might be the best thing for the team. So yeah, I that's why I say it's somebody else at first base, not Wells. I do
Oh,
believe Wells is athletic enough to play first base,
yeah.
but
I mean,
this is about Trevino.
yeah. I mean, trust me. I want Judge at first. That's been my end game, right? I've always said that Judge at first, Jason Dominguez in center field. I feel like it's like a no brainer. But Wells is more so trying to. Okay, I see you're stubborn. You're not going this way. Meet me in the middle here. That's what Wells is right now for me, because I know the record 49-22, and we're very positive on this channel. Obviously, the Yankees haven't given us much to be negative about, but I think we like to take a sneak peek forward into the future, and we like to prepare our audience, like, hey, no one's talking about this, maybe you should keep an eye on this. And sure enough, I've noticed a few things. Like, I mentioned, for instance, Pete Alonso before the year started, and Pete Alonso gets brought up by Passan like way later. Did Passan watch our video? Absolutely not. But I'm saying that, like, we
He
were
watched
ahead of
it.
that. Maybe we were ahead of that. And then, like, you and I were talking about, the idea of just keeping heel. And I think we were higher on heel than any other show. I think there's a chance we were higher. I was definitely high on heel.
Yeah, you were 100%.
And I felt like 311 was the ERA prediction that I had for him. So I was very high on him. But the point I'm making here is, like, people weren't really talking about Aaron Judge at first either. And we have been talking about that from the beginning of the season. And I'm going to continue to pound the stump for that, but also understanding that I'm not just blindly hoping for Aaron Judge to play first base. There's a method to my madness. And right now, Rizzo and Lamehu, 49-22, they don't affect the whatever right now. But as time goes on, you will lose games because of LeMahieu's lack of hitting and Rizzo's lack of fielding. And Rizzo was a very good fielder. You could argue top 10, 2 years ago? He has fallen off. And just like how we've seen Trevino, like the year he went to the All-Star game and then he completely collapsed in the second half of the season, just like how the good can go to bad, the bad can go to good. So I want to also put that out there. Rizzo could figure it out in the second half. I don't expect it to happen. But Gary, I think it's very fair to, as we wrap this show up and talking about a loss, to point the finger at first base, because it right now is the biggest weak link of the New York Yankees.
Yeah, and who gives a shit what you were 2 years ago defensively? How does that have any bearing? Michael Jordan 20 years ago had a 45-inch vertical. Now he's golfing and has yellow eyeballs. Who gives a shit? You know what I mean? Like, you
were
wouldn't.
dying to say that. You're like,
I was dying to say it. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't actually matter who you were. It matters who we project you to be. Now, I'm not trying to be funny here, but
no,
when
I
you
get it.
make a lineup and you put people in the position to perform, you're essentially saying this guy from this point forward, these next 9 innings of baseball, gives us the best opportunity to succeed. Now, when you put some of these guys in there, our opinion is there's been such a regression from some of these guys, whether it be defensively, offensively, power-wise with DJ, defensively with Rizzo, those, I guess my whole point here is like, if guys are getting worse at what they're supposed to be excellent at, well, then I have to question why they're there in the first place. And then maybe we should find a remedy. So that's what the whole point of this episode was, is to make sure we're open-minded that the best player is in every spot, because it's not always just sunshine and rainbows because you won 49 games. No one's going to care that we've won all these games when October hits. Because you know what? How many people care that the Dodgers are going to go win 98, 100 games? What is everyone actually saying about Ohtani and the Dodgers? They said they're going to win a ton of games and then they're going to choke in the playoffs. So essentially what people are telling you when they say that is no one gives a shit that you won a bunch of games in the regular season. So part of our job is to win a lot in the regular season. And then to finish the job, the best players have to be out there to win. And that's what we're trying to do.
Exactly. And for those of you out there that are big in investing and things like that, just look at this as unrealized profit. 49 wins is great, but right now, 49 wins would not get you into the playoffs. Got to keep it going. And I think a lot of people forget that. I know all the, they're 100% likely to make the playoffs. Yeah, you would think so. But
Jake, people think we're cocky. You know that? People legitimately think that we beat our chest, but they don't watch this part of the show, right? 41 minutes in, where we mention the Yankees are not a playoff team yet. Like, that's not a sure thing. We haven't won the division. We're 2.5 games up. So yeah, there's a lot of baseball to be played. So let's roll.
This is the equivalent of, an NFL season with 17 games. You've played 4. You're 4-0. Let's go. Like, who, maybe 3-1 is a better example, but still a lot of games to go. We'll see what ends up happening. Hopefully at some point we wake up to great news. We don't have to wake up. I mean, we could be up and just see the great news, but hopefully we see great news someday where it's like Judge first base in the lineup, Jason Dominguez called up at center field. That's when you'll know the next era of Yankees baseball has commenced. And that is going to be an exciting thing. So I'll leave you with that. Be sure to follow us on all social media at JK Bogan, at Gary Sheffield Jr., and at Yankees Unloaded. And we will see you guys in the next video. Take care, folks.
Like this video.